welcome. I'm memory, and some things are better left forgotten. People all over the world started receiving strange letters. Inside was an invitation to come to an old manor. Each letter had its own hook, convincing enough to make people agree. Some were promised money, others a new life, and some answers to questions that had haunted them for years. Many agreed and came to the manor willingly, but almost none of them ever returned. Over time, rumors began to spread. People said strange games were held there, that the participants lost their memories, saw each other as monsters, and started fighting to survive. But who's behind it? Why are these games happening? And what's really going on in the manor? To understand that, we have to go back to the very beginning, to the story of the family that once owned this place. According to rumors, the manor was built by a naval officer in Scotland in the 16th century. His story was tied to bloodshed, so from the very beginning, it was seen as a cursed place and remained abandoned for a long time. At the end of the 19th century, the manor was bought by a young fair-haired couple, Dennis DeRoss and Mrs. DeRoss. After moving in, they began restoring the estate and hiring servants. Among them were Burke Lapadura, who handled the reconstruction, Bain Perez, who took care of the forest, and the Blanche family, Mr. Blanche, Mrs. Blanche, and Orpheus. Around the same year, Mrs. DeRoss gave birth to a daughter, Alice. Later on, Orpheus and Alice would become very close. In 1887, bandits broke into the manor and killed Alice's parents. The estate was sold through deception, and Alice was sent to a psychiatric hospital on Wyatt Sand Street. Eventually, the manor kept changing hands. It was mostly bought for resale, until in 1889 it reached Manus. The new owner, Manus de Capet, bought the manor and built a racetrack nearby for his wife. After the wedding, his wife Maria de Capet fell into depression, likely because of the gossip and rumors around her, and Manus hoped to make her happy by building the racetrack. At first, it seemed like she loved the gift, but in the end, she took her own life, hanging herself at the racetrack. In 1892, another tragedy happened there, involving Lilium and Cyanus. Lily's brother, Simon, fell from Lilium's horse during a race and was badly injured. Cyanus, Maria's favorite horse, caused a deadly stampede at the track, earning the nickname the White Horse of Death. The tragedies led to a lawsuit against Manus. In the end, he couldn't handle the pressure and disappeared from the public eye. The manor was soon sold again, and the racetrack was abandoned. But all of this was only the beginning. In 1896, the estate is bought by a new, mysterious owner. He hires people again to manage the manor. And just when the locals think the place will finally start to prosper under the young master, disturbing rumors begin to spread. They say the owner is holding some kind of treasure hunt and invites people to take part. But those who arrive at the estate almost never come back. At the same time, the owner starts working with a strange plant, a fern that normally grows only in very specific conditions and acidic soil. How it ended up on the estate is unknown. Maybe the soil was brought in on purpose, or maybe they tried to recreate the right environment artificially. But later, this very plant becomes the base of a substance that will play a key role in the estate's experiments. The manor itself is just a place. The real question is something else. Who is behind all of this? Who sends out the invitation letters? Who funds what's happening? And who watches the games where people become part of the experiment? Among all the mentions, we can pick out a few key figures who, it seems, were at the very origin of these events. Baron DeRoss is the main antagonist, often mentioned in letters and theories, but his appearance has never been revealed. He is most likely the true owner of the estate. He is also the organizer of the games, and the invitation letters are sent in his name. During or after the matches, He fills out files with the participants' numbers. Sam Bourbon is a chemist who prepares substances for the game participants. He is also Demi's non-biological brother. Her mother raised him when he was still a child. After their mother's death, Demi and Sam escaped from the slums and opened a bar called Bourbon Bar. Sam mixed cocktails, while Demi served the customers. One day, Sam received an invitation to work at the estate, and soon after that, he went missing. Count Barrier's Lily's grandfather, and most likely one of the sponsors of the games at the estate. He also funded Moon River Park and owned a mountain, where he ordered a mine to be built, called the Golden Cave. After gold was discovered there, Orpheus is a figure who, at first glance, seems far removed from the organization of the games. However, some details make you start to question that. For example, in one of the photos he is seen together with Sam Bourbon, the man who was supposedly responsible for creating the substances. This suggests that Orpheus may have known Sam much more closely than it seems at first sight. In addition, Alice's 2024 letter mentions that Orpheus discovered some kind of secret about Sam Bourbon. What exactly that secret is remains unknown, but it could be connected to the experiments conducted at the estate. It's also interesting that in Orpheus' own 2025 letter, Sam Bourbon appears again in his notes. This detail once more suggests that their stories may have been closely linked. But what was really happening inside the estate? What was hidden behind these so-called games people kept talking about? Before the games even begin, the participants go through a kind of preparation stage. First, invitation letters are sent out all over the world. After receiving them, people arrive at the estate, where they spend some time together. During this period, they get to know each other, talk, and keep personal diaries. They are also informed about the rules of the manor. 1. Participants are not allowed to leave the estate grounds, and in some cases, not even the manor itself. 2. Participants must follow a curfew and not wander around at night. 3. During their stay, participants are required to keep notes and a diary. 4. The rule of 4. A game cannot begin with fewer than 4 participants. Any participant who breaks the rules is disqualified from the game. There are exceptions. Some games may have additional rules. For example, Group 3A. This group has a rule. They can't speak to each other. The only way to communicate is through notes, which, ironically, suits the group's introverts perfectly. At the same time, participants begin to be exposed to certain substances. Most likely, the substance enters their bodies through food and drinks. This is supported by a fragment from the Ashes of Memory. Alice starts experiencing hallucinations after eating. Another detail that shows how systematically the games were organized is the participant numbers. Every person who arrived at the estate was assigned a special 3-digit number. It was most likely used by the organizers to track participants and the results of the experiment. Each digit in that number had its own meaning. The first digit indicated the number of the game or the experimental group the person was part of. The second digit showed the participant's reaction to the substance. It could take 3 values. 1. The person was under the substance's effect, and it clearly caused a reaction. 0. The person also took the substance, but it had little to no effect on them. Most likely, the participant wasn't exposed to the substance at all. The third digit indicated the order in which the participant arrived at the estate within their group. For example, Ada has the number 001. This means she belongs to Game 0, or Group 0. The substance has no effect on her, and she was the first to arrive at the estate. Patricia has the number 5-5. This suggests she is part of the 5th group, was likely not exposed to the substance, and arrived at the estate 5th. And Margaretha has the number 814. This means she took part in the 8th game. The substance clearly affected her, and she arrived 4th in her group. Next comes the second stage, the games themselves, based on letters, notes, and the participants' memories. These games were not entertainment or a competition at all. In reality, they were an experiment. Participants received invitation letters to the estate under different pretexts. Each of them had their own personal reason to agree to come. Lydia Jones received an invitation that mentioned her mistakes in her medical career. The owner of the estate offered her financial support as an incentive. Lisa Beck wasn't lured in with money or rewards, but with the chance to reunite with someone from her past, referred to in the letter as an old friend. A thistle flower was also included with the letter. Kishi hoped to find her missing friend, Tanshi, and received a letter saying that someone knew her whereabouts. All of these reasons had one thing in common. They were convincing enough to make people agree to take part in the estate's games. At the same time, everything suggests the participants weren't chosen at random. Some of them already knew each other or were connected through past events. Others simply had something in common. This points to the idea that the organizers were deliberately bringing together people whose paths were meant to cross. Game 4. All of its participants are connected, in one way or another, to a single girl, Lisa Beck, and each of them played a role in her life. Lydia Jones is the doctor who performed electroshock therapy on Lisa. Later, Lisa's mother dies in her clinic. Freddie Riley is the man who convinced Lisa's father to buy a factory that was already drowning in debt. After that decision, the family quickly began to fall apart. Creature Pearson is the owner of the orphanage, where Lisa ends up after her family collapses. And finally, Leo Beck, her own father, the one who ultimately sends her to that orphanage. Game 8. Violetta, Mike, Murrow, Joker, and Margaretha, all of them are circus performers. Violetta was a circus artist. Mike and Joker performed in the troupe. Margaretha worked there as a dancer and an animal tamer, and Moreau took part in the shows alongside them. Basically, every participant in this game were colleagues. People who once worked in the same place and knew each other long before the events at the estate. A key role in these games was played by a substance made from the fern. Most likely, this is exactly what Sam Bourbon was working on. Based on the diaries and notes, growing this plant turned out to be far more difficult than expected. Attempts to cultivate it at the estate kept failing. The conditions were simply too unsuitable. In one of the entries, dated September 20, it stated directly that successful cultivation requires special conditions, including specific soil and water from the place where the plant originally grew. That's why new samples of the fern were regularly brought in from outside, so the experiments could continue. In an entry dated January 15th, it's mentioned that a test subject had already been brought in to try the substance. Then there's a line, "She has already suffered enough," which clearly points to a specific person going through these experiments. Most likely, that girl is Alice.
Special plants you mentioned earlier, those ferns? Why are they growing here?
It is quite unusual indeed. With the exception of a few plants like cornflowers, most ornamental plants prefer acidic soil. Those ferns are no exception. The lord of the manor prepared a type of artificial soil just to grow it.
Later, several different substances were created from this plant, each affecting people in a different way. One of them, called Dionysus, caused a gradual loss of awareness of what was happening, erasing memories of the game events. 2. Another substance, known as Hydra, was used to restore memory instead. 3. There is also a drug called Orpheus, which could push a person into a coma-like state. 4. And finally, Siren's song caused intense hallucinations, making people see distorted images and experience extreme fear. Under the influence of these substances, the participants could perceive everything happening in a completely different way from reality. Margaretha takes Siren's song and sees the sad clown in Joker's form. The clown's hunter appearance exists only in her mind, because she subconsciously compares the sad clown to Sergi, her former husband. Alice also takes the same substance, so she sees Norton as a hunter. This image exists only in her perception. This is confirmed by Norton's real reflection in a puddle during the chase. That's exactly why, during the games, people could see each other as monsters, lose control over their emotions, and make decisions they would never normally consider. In these conditions, the games turned into an experimental model of human behavior, where observers watched how people reacted to fear, pressure, and the loss of connection to reality. In this way, the estate became a kind of laboratory, where the human psyche itself was the object of observation. This is only the main part of a much bigger story. If you're interested in hearing more video topics, make sure to leave a comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.